Hello and welcome to Mangatory 96, and today we are going to talk about Arifureta Shokugyou de Sekai Saikyou. With the first Abyss Lord arc being in full swing in the after story of the web novel, it's the perfect time to talk about the right-hand man of the Demon King. But first, I would like to talk about the series as a whole, because this series didn't receive an anime adaptation that will do it justice. So it put off a lot of potential people who would read the light novel or web novel. To those that watch at least one episode of the anime, the first thing that will come to mind as being horrible are the atrocious CG monsters. While it's true that the CG monsters were so bad that you wanted to skip those fight scenes, but the real reason as to why the anime adaptation is horrible is the reason that they adapted 4 light novel volumes into 13 episodes. That way they skipped a lot of things and rushed through the things that they showed, just so they could get to the finale of volume 4 in the light novel in the 13 episodes. This decision made it so that no one could have enjoyed the anime adaptation. To give a comparison on how idiotic this idea of adapting 4 light novel volumes into 13 episodes actually is, let's take one of the best anime that this season has to offer, namely 86. This anime isn't just praised that it adapted the source material perfectly, but that it went beyond that and improved on what the source material had laid out. And they did that by adapting one volume of the light novel into 11 episodes. Which just goes to show that whoever had the brilliant idea to adapt 4 volumes into 13 episodes should get fired. Now, with a new director and studio handling the second season that should air in January of 2022, it can't get any worse, at least I hope. Now, this was more of a rant on the anime adaptation than my thoughts on this series, so here there are. Arifureta may not be the most original of isekais, and it may seem to be too edgy, at least in the beginning. It is still pretty enjoyable. It has a good humor which can reach the heights of Konosuba humor at times. With an enjoyable main cast with only really Koki being annoying, but even he received his redemption arc in the web novel After Stories. It also has an interesting world in Tortus with its lore and history that it received a spin-off series of the Liberators, and this is even further expanded in the After Stories with the inclusion of even more worlds that are all connected. But the biggest strength that Arifureta has for me is the after stories in the web novel, that at this point is longer than the main story, which shows the lives of Hajime and the others after their return home, with arcs dedicated to Kosuke and Koki and some chapters focusing on other characters, for example Yuka Sonobe and her relationship with Hajime, and the addition of the new worlds from a science fiction world to a world of sky dragons, which makes this feel more grand. All in all, Arifureta may not be a masterpiece of an isekai, but nonetheless it's still pretty good and enjoyable to read. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the main topic of this video, and that's Kousuke Endou, who may not have been prevalent and important in the main series, but he did receive 3 arcs in the after story which fleshed out his character and showed that he is also a character that could be the main character of his series, from his adventures in Britain that was similar to a James Bond movie, to his adventures in the Vatican that was similar to Da Vinci's Code, and his newest adventure in the Onmyoji world, with getting new wives after every adventure, but I hope to God that he doesn't after the newest one, or at least he should wait 10 years for it. Those of you who are reading this arc know what I mean by that. In this video I will cover Kosuke's personality and some notable relationships that he has, but before we start, here's the spoiler warning, as I will be spoiling a lot of things from here on out. Now let's start with a brief overview on who Kosuke is. Kousuke Endou is one of the students from Japan who got involved in the summoning incident and ended up in Tortus along with the other classmates. He also has a very weak presence and can't be noticed by labyrinth monsters or automatic doors. A year after coming back to Earth, it is revealed that he started dating the rabbit man Lana Howley, a member of the Howley tribe, and is studying medicine for the tribe since they have no one with that talent. He also started calling Hajime boss and was given the name Kosuke Abyssgate after being accepted into the tribe. As for his personality, Kosuke has a normal personality, although he always complains about his very weak presence that makes it unable for the others to usually notice him. Even though he is aware of this enough to expect it, he can't help but complain about it. Reversely, he will become extremely happy when he meets someone who can notice him normally. Having fallen for Lana because she could keep track of him despite his best efforts and cry tears of joy when he found out Claudia could naturally also notice him. Nonetheless, Kosuke still cares deeply about those around him and hates the idea of abandoning them. When the hero party was overwhelmed by Catalea in the Great Orcus Labyrinth, Kosuke desperately wanted to save them and was full of guilt that he had to abandon Meld and the other knights to survive. After he falls in love with Lana, he keeps trying to win her over until she gave him two extremely difficult conditions that would make her consider going out with him. Despite everyone believing it will be impossible for him, Kosuke manages to successfully clear a labyrinth and land a scratch on Hajime in combat, who was said to be fighting him seriously. This impressive display of dedication to his crush is what earned Hajime's respect. Kosuke is proud for being known as Hajime's right-hand man, but does not share his ideals in regards how to deal with his enemies. He is against indiscriminately obliterating all of those in his way and will only use lethal force as a last resort. He also dislikes having to ask Hajime for help, as he knows that Hajime will do so depending on the request, but he doesn't wish to trouble him with any personal requests. Kosuke has proven to be very understanding when it comes to other people's goals and reasons. He understood that Sharon McDanes isn't an evil person, but one who does necessary evil for the sake of protecting her country, which separates her from those who want to use the berserker drug for evil purposes. He also can be extremely supportive for those who suffered yet wish to finish what they started, which earned him the feelings of Emily and Claudia when he chose to help them. He even goes as far as to talk back to Yue. In the later case, something his friends respect him for doing, despite their jealousy of him getting another lover and fearing for his life, knowing what Yue will likely do to him for defying her. Despite all of the powerful artifacts in his possessions, Kosuke does not want to become too dependent on using them when he is not in danger, as he is concerned that it will make him become too complacent and take the simple things for granted that he feels make life worth living. When his skill, Abyss Lord, is activated, his personality becomes that of a chunin. He would often do and say things in an over-dramatic manner that are considered completely pointless. He proudly calls himself Lord Abyssgate and refers to himself as the Abyss itself. He would also give ninja-based names to his techniques and act like a ninja as well. At the same time, he would also act like an over-dramatic gentleman when talking to women. After he reverts back, Kosuke generally falls into a depressed state out of embarrassment. While he curses this state, he doesn't hesitate to enter it when the situation calls for it. As for his relationship with Hajime, though Kosuke didn't used to have much interaction with him before the summoning incident, he was still affected by Hajime's supposed death in the Great Orcus Labyrinth. After discovering that he was still alive, as well as learning about his journey and how he overcome all the odds, Kosuke started to have respect towards him, especially after Hajime helped him rescue his friends who were ambushed in the Great Orcus Labyrinth. Like most of his classmates who are terrified of Hajime, Kosuke takes this warning about killing anyone that stands in his way seriously, as he doesn't want to die by Hajime's hand, even after he murdered Daisuke Hiyama. Later in the after story, After the final battle, Kosuke repeatedly asked Lana out, and after countless attempts, Lana gave him the condition of clearing a great labyrinth and landing one hit on their boss, aka Hajime, before she would consider going out with him. Kosuke managed to achieve both of them, and Hajime has since then had a respect for him. After the students returned back to Japan, Kosuke became the only member of the returnee group who stays active and does various tasks for and with Hajime in order to protect and manage the safety of everyone close to them. Because of Lana's nature of wanting to gather 7 wives for Kosuke and the fact that the Abyss Lord powers of Kosuke turned him into a chunin, Hajime started to have a really close relationship with Kosuke and even considers him as a bosom friend. Hajime also started to egg Lana on her quests for a harem for Kosuke. This has resulted in many complicated situations for Kosuke as a result. Despite being Hajime's right-hand man, there were times when Kosuke wouldn't hesitate to get back at him or being the victim of his antics. Putting aside on how Hajime suggested Lana for Kosuke to have more than one wife, Kosuke prevented Hajime from escaping Koki's summoning with his clones and explained to Yue and the others after their return the real reason why it took them 3 extra days to return, in which Hajime told Kosuke to keep a secret. As for his relationship with Lana Haori, she is Kosuke's fiancée and first wife. She is one of the few people who manages to perceive Kosuke even after he uses all of his skills to hide his presence. This causes Kosuke to fall in love with her during the final battle. At first, he is rejected successfully, but after seeing his determination in order to hide her shyness, she presents him with a condition that if he can clear, she will consider going out with him, which he eventually succeeds in doing. This causes her to accept Kosuke, and because of his strength, Kosuke gets elected as the next clan leader for the Haulia. Because of his future position, Lana has adamantly decided to create a harem of 7 wives for Kosuke and is looking around the world to find them. She also considered herself as the reason who created Kosuke's Abyss Gate persona. As for his relationship with Emily Grant, Emily falls in love with Kosuke after going through much trouble involving a special drug she created. She entered Kosuke's harem by Lana despite the fact he doesn't want her to. He thus accepts her as one of his lovers and has one of his clones living with Emily and her family. As for his relationship with Vanessa Paradis, an agent from Britain's security bureau responsible for Emily's safety, she became infuriated with Kosuke after witnessing his ability and Abyss Gate persona. She enters the harem by Lana and declares herself his third wife. Their relationship is similar to Hajime and Tio's, where Kosuke doesn't punish Vanessa physically. As for his relationship with Claudia Barenberg, a saint from a secret organization Omnibus that is located in the Vatican City, she was hunted by a powerful demon who wanted to use her body to aid in his rebirth. After the demon was defeated, she confessed her feelings to Kosuke. Much to the shock of Emily, she is ultimately accepted in the harem as the fourth wife. She is one of the few people to be able to perceive Kosuke at all times, which made Kosuke extremely happy he saved her. With this, I covered everything that I wanted to cover on Kosuke, and that will be all for this video. If you like this video, leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments below, or subscribe to the channel for more manga reviews and One Piece content. And until next time, take care.